After about a month since we crossed the border into Baja, we have made it down to the bottom. Well, technically the bottom of Baja is Cabo San Lucas. We're not quite ready for that kind of madness. We much prefer this spot, about an hour north on the Pacific coast, Playa Los Cerritos. Playa Los Cerritos is by no means a secret. It is in fact one of the most touristy and busiest beaches down here. The reason why we like it so much is because the kids love swimming and playing along the shores of the long, shallow, sandy beach. It doesn't hurt that there are great tacos just around the corner from us, and only a short 10-minute drive to our favorite gringo breakfast spot, La Esquina, at the beautiful Pueblo Mágico town of Todos Santos. We've slowed our rate of travel way down, now that we're basically running out of land to go south until we ferry across the mainland Mexico. We found ourselves at a relatively new and quaint campground called Clay Cactus. It is off-grid with hauled-in water and solar electricity, only about a 10-minute walk to the beach. The communal kitchen helps us spread out a bit outside of the van and interact with other travelers who have also made this place their home for now. We spent a quiet Christmas at the campground, and the kids bought each other little presents that they wrapped up and opened on Christmas morning. Since we don't have an oven, but we do have a cast iron Dutch oven, so we made mashed potatoes and yams, stuffing, and fried chicken for Christmas dinner. We are quite content here. But there is one thing. When we were in California, we got my longboard surfboard out of storage to take down here with us. With solar panels, fans, and storage boxes, we don't really have a place to carry boards on the roof anymore. It has been quite a hassle shuffling them on and off of our bed each night on driving days. As luck would have it, our friends Brett and Liz of Our Overland Life were passing by San Diego on their way down to Baja for a quick 2-week trip. They agreed to swing by Illuminus and pick up side-mounting surf racks for our van and bring it down to us. In return, we offered to meet them halfway up the peninsula in San Ignacio and show them around Baja a little bit. Brett has not driven down to Baja for more than a decade. Liz has never been down here. We are grateful that they were able to bring these parts down for us, so we no longer have to do the surfboard shuffle. They, on the other hand, are happy to have us show them around one of our favorite places in the world for the next couple of weeks. We ended up at Bahia de Concepcion after turning around at San Ignacio and heading back south. It was just around New Year's, and Baja is getting really busy. Luckily, we found a spot at Playa Los Cocos. Our neighbor went fishing in the morning and came back with a huge African pompano. After several days of daily driving to meet up with Brett and Liz, we were thrilled to stay put for a couple of nights to celebrate the New Year's with friends. Since they don't have a ton of time to explore all the nooks and crannies of Baja, we decided to continue making our way south. Next stop, La Paz. Playa Tecolote is on the north end of the eastern shoreline, forming the Bay of La Paz, with La Paz at its base. It is a popular beach camping area with tons of snowbirds spending the winter season here. It can get pretty crowded, And as we have limited time, one night is all we can do here for now. We decided that making a clockwise drive here in the southern loop of Baja Sur will allow us to maximize their time. First stop after La Paz, we drove towards the town of La Ventana. It translates to the window, which describes the gap between the shoreline and Isla Cervalvo across the channel. The island's official name since 2009 is actually Isla Jacques Cousteau. The Mexican government made the change from its historical name to honor the famous oceanographer who led many expeditions around the island. But by most of the locals, it is still referred to as Isla Cervalvo. The geography helps to funnel constant strong winds in between the two land masses, making it a popular destination for wind sports enthusiasts. It has become extremely popular, and people have been flocking here from all around the world. We stayed just one night and opted for a quieter beach spot to the north end with boiling hot spring pools at the edge of the Sea of Cortez. If you mix the hot spring water with enough of the sea, you can build yourself a nice shallow spot to soak in for about 15 minutes before the tide either comes in or moves out. Then you start the whole process all over again. After La Ventana, we continued down the coast, making our way towards Los Barriles. Rather than taking the pavement there, we opted for an off-road trail along the coast. We've never done this drive before, but we were told that it was not too difficult, so we gave it a shot. Aside from a couple of steep and rocky spots, the vans handle the drive just fine. Much of the first half of the drive is on a narrow track over the coastal ridge. With a big and heavy van, we were glad to have our four-wheel drive. Whether or not the view and experience from this trail was worth it, sort of depends on who you ask. After a night in Los Barriles, where we camped in the yard of Brett and Liz's friend from Montana who spends their winters down here, we continue south towards the East Cape of Baja Sur. Here we met up with a couple of our mutual traveling friends and camped with them for a night. Toby went that way. He's under somebody's car or just wandering around. We are here just on the northern edge of Cabo Pulmo National Park. This is, of course, in Baja California Sur. And we've been traveling with our friends Brett and Liz from Our Overland Life for the last, I'm gonna say like 5 days or so, maybe a little longer. So let's see. We were in Los Cerritos doing some surfing down by Todos Santos, about 10 miles south of Todos Santos, and we spent a week there. Really great, beautiful week. We plan on staying longer, but meanwhile we've been driving down all of Baja, and we left California obviously for the foreseeable future, but we have these two surfboards. You know, we travel for a couple years in Europe with a 7'6" surfboard in the bed of our van, which is okay. But when we came down here, we brought a 10-footer, my longboard that we got out of storage, that I wanted to ride while we're down here on this trip going south. And the intention was always that I would get a surf pole to go on the outside so I can tie the surfboard, the longboard, to the outside of the van so I wouldn't have it inside because it's just way too long to be inside. So we talked to a couple of welders in Baja. My thought was that, you know what, it can't be that expensive to get somebody to make one for us. However, it turns out they wanted a lot of money. I talked to somebody in La Paz to make me one, just basically a curved pole with a couple of brackets, one on top, one on the bottom. And they wanted $500 or $600. So we went back to the company that made our ladder and see if they had any in stock. And for about $300 and something, they had one in stock. But the problem is we had to get somebody to pick it up for us or figure out a way to ship it down here. And we found out our friends Brett and Liz were coming down here for a couple of weeks, and they kindly agreed to go through San Diego. They were driving through anyways to pick it up for us. It was Liz's first time in Baja, so she wanted to have somebody to travel with instead of being alone for the entire drive down. So we drove up halfway to meet them in San Ignacio, which was probably close to 500 miles up from where we were. We did it in 2 days. We met them there. Turned out to be pretty cool because we got to spend New Year's with them, and also we got to check out a couple of other spots that we kind of missed on the way down here. Specifically, we wanted to go to Mulahay Brewing Company, which we had heard from a bunch of people had really good beer and really good pizzas, and they were not lying about that. Both of those are absolutely true. Probably the best pizzas in Baja. Originally, they were only going to do like 10 days, a week to 10 days, but they managed to squeeze in another week. We were in San Ignacio, and we drove through Mulahay and went to Bahia de Concepcion. We spent 2 days there, had New Year's with them there, and then also after that we drove all the way down from there to La Paz, went to Tecolote. From Tecolote we went to La Ventana, and which we hadn't been to yet on this trip. And then yesterday we drove through La Ventana, went to Los Barriles. They have some friends that live in Los Barriles or have a winter place there. Now we're in Cabo Pulmo. So the plan is that we're going to drive sort of a clockwise loop around southern Baja and then make our way back to La Paz in about 4 or 5 days or so. We met up with our other friends, Andrew and Courtney, and also Mike and Danny Mortel. 12 of us. Yeah, there's 12 of us in these 4 vehicles. 3 dogs and 3 cats. We're letting them loose today. There's Twin. It's been sort of off and on where we feel comfortable letting them loose and run around. Obviously, they're really happy when they get to do that, but we have to make sure the conditions are just right. We have to make sure we have some kind of tracking device on them that we can put on that works. Sometimes it's a tractive collar that has GPS signal and cellular connection. Sometimes it's what they're using now, which is the TabCat tracker, and that uses just radio frequency. And the radio frequency collar, you kind of detect them by using a little handheld tracker, and it just beeps. It tells you how close you are to them. So far so good. The only thing that's happened is actually a couple of things, and both Toby managed to get a nasty cactus quill stuck right to the side of his face, and only a tiny bit of it was sticking out, and then it was a huge one. So we had to go to the vet in Todos Santos, and the vet gave him some antibiotics, some sort of pain medication after he yanked it out. It was in there really, really good. It wasn't budging at all because I think this quill had some kind of hooks in them. little barbs that prevented it from coming out, but neither us nor the vet tech felt comfortable enough just yanking on it. But the vet just grabbed a pair of tweezers or pliers and just pulled on it full force. It came right out. That was a few days ago, so he's okay now. And then just the other day at Tecolote outside of La Paz, we were getting ready to leave. Much like today, we're leaving today from this spot and we'll let the cats out loose. And Toby decided that he's gonna go sleep in this giant pokey bush. We couldn't get him out. It's about a 40-foot bush all the way around, so it was 20 foot each way to get in. So we managed to finally get him out after a lot of poking with the broomstick and throwing rocks into the bush. We finally got him out by using our Max Tracks, putting the Max Tracks on the bush and using it as like a makeshift bridge to walk through the bush without getting poked by crazy thorny bushes. Finally got him out. Baja's a lot different than it used to be 6 years ago. There's a lot more people down here. Their prices are a lot higher. There's a lot more development. All these things have happened all around the world is, of course, inevitably happening here in Baja as well. So if you're ever thinking about coming to Baja, come sooner than later, because there is no telling what will happen in the coming years. This area is still preserved as it is part of the national park, but there's a lot of development, huge mansions, a lot of money being poured in here. We just talked to somebody who bought a piece of land 6 years ago for $30,000, and now realizing some of their neighbors are selling their pieces of land for $300,000. So today we are heading out. We are unfortunately only staying one night at each spot because Brett and Liz have to be on their way back north, at least start heading north, probably 5 days from now. They want to be in La Paz, and after that they have budgeted about 3 to 4 days to get all the way back into California, or I think more specifically they have to be in Arizona. So we're having a bit of a cannonball run with them, but something different for a change. After they leave, we'll slow down again. But for now.
From here, the road turns to dirt for the next 40 or so miles. This is famously known as the East Cape Road, connecting the remote town of La Ribera to Zacatitos, just outside of San Jose del Cabo. The drive here is super washboardy and dusty, but a must if you want to see the best of Baja Sur. We randomly chose a beach at the end of the many arroyos to camp at for the night.
We are at a beach called Playa San Lucas. It is about a mile north from the famous Nine Palms surf spot on the East Cape of the Baja Peninsula. It's only about 20 miles or so from San Jose del Cabo and about 25 miles from where we were yesterday, which was the northern end of Cabo Pulmo National Park. So we drove on an entirely washboard road coming down here. Really badly washboarded road. But luckily, during our drive, a grader drove past us, going the other way, which meant that they had just graded the other side of the road. So we drove on the left side of the road for a little bit. That was only about half of the drive, so the other half of the drive it was still pretty washboardy. And I think there's going to be more washboards coming up today, which is fine. We're only about 10-12 miles before it goes back to pavement. So We'll be heading over to Cabo San Lucas today. And we only got about 3 more days left with our friends Brett and Liz of Our Overland Life. They are heading back up north. They want to be back in California, I think in 5 or 6 days, so pretty quickly. So yeah, today leaving the East Cape for Cabo, tomorrow Todos Santos, and from Todos Santos we're gonna go back to La Paz, and we'll split up. We'll go our separate ways from La Paz. Hopefully we will go back to stay someplace for 3 to 7 days after that. Sort of wrap up our time here in Baja before we ferry across over the mainland. Not exactly sure when that will be yet. That is to be determined. But right now it's looking like no sooner than the 1st of February. You walking the cats?
Yeah. I need a haircut.
You need a haircut.
Yeah.
Do you want us to cut it, or do you want to go to a real hair cutting place? All right. We'll see what kind of hair cutting options we got around here. Probably pretty good. We are, after all, next to one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world.
After the East Cape, we arrived at the bustling Los Cabos. This is the original hotspot of Baja Sur. Over the last several decades, this area has become very built up as compared to the secluded fishing villages it used to be in the 1950s. Certainly you've seen the No Bad Day stickers if you have ever been down to Baja. Perhaps you have even seen them elsewhere. The phrase was coined by the beach bum turned restaurateur Mike Gerzenich one morning as he was waking up on a panga boat after a long night. He was one of the original quote-unquote gringos here in Baja and has proudly owned the famous Latitude 22 restaurant. As it turns out, Brett and Liz went to school with Mike's daughter, Irish, who along with her husband Cameron has taken over the restaurant after Mike's recent passing. We spent a lovely evening having dinner and drinks while getting to know Irish and Cameron while listening to a Queen cover band rock out all night. As it turns out, Mike has Croatian roots, just like Marlene and her family. As we rounded the bottom of the Baja Peninsula, we're now officially making our way north again. This is the same area where we started the wild ride just 2 weeks ago when we decided to drive north to meet up with Brett and Liz. Wild camping has become extremely difficult around Todos Santos with the recent closure of a popular beach spot where we camped out for several weeks during our previous visits. So we headed a bit further north out of town and camped at a spot by the Pacific for the night.
Nobody steps on him. Maybe you should bury him upside down, so in case we don't want his spikes to go through the sand.
We made it back to La Paz, hence completing our southern loop, and is where we'll say goodbye to Brett and Liz. We had not anticipated so many days of driving after having settled in at one of our favorite places 2 weeks ago. But we are really glad we did. Being able to travel with friends is one of the reasons why this lifestyle appeals to us so much. We had not known Brett and Liz very well before, having only met them briefly at Overland Expo West 8 months prior. But these last 2 weeks have turned us from acquaintances into good friends. We're sad to see them leave, but I'm sure we'll see them again somewhere down the road.